Alright, man, peace. So, brothers, I did a video a while ago pertaining to who is the best running back in the NFL. And I had to agree with Mr. Max Kellerman that despite the fact that Ezekiel Elliott and Todd Gurley and, of course, Le'Veon Bell in absence are considered to be the top 3 running backs in the NFL because of what they've done. In my view, just paying attention to the eyeball test, Saquon Barkley is the most talented and the best running back in the NFL in regards to what he brings to the table. So, of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Speaking of eyeball test,
my joke with him.
my Giants put on a show yesterday, even without Odell Beckham Jr., who was a late scratch due to a quadriceps injury. Never fear, good old Saquon is here. Barkley rushed for 170.
Look at that. I mean, this dude has moves in the open field. He's making one-hand catches. I have been very wrong about Mr. Saquon Barkley. Part of it based on the bias that I have against Penn State running backs. As I stated in the previous video, the first football game that I ever attended with my father was the Jets, and I believe they were playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it was the first game of Mr. Blair Thomas, the running back that they had drafted, I think, number 1 overall out of Penn State. And he actually had a very good game that day, but was terrible for the rest of his career.
70 yards and 14 carries in a TD.
I remember Kajana Carter was also a big flop as well, out of Penn State.
Max, let me ask you this. Did Saquon prove
This dude just flies right by people. I mean, he's been incredible for them this year.
he's the best running back in the NFL?
Yes, and if you put everyone on a lie detector test, they'd all agree with me. This is not an issue of degree. It's an issue of kind. Saquon Barkley is the only kind of guy like him. Apologies to Todd Gurley and Ezekiel Elliott and everyone else. Think about when they were in college. Gurley was above Ezekiel Elliott by a little bit. He got hurt, and so that knocked him down in his draft. But
I'm not quite sure if Gurley was above Ezekiel Elliott in regards to the estimations of the evaluators for NFL prospects. I mean, they were pretty equal. Ezekiel Elliott was incredible. He was dominant in college. I remember what he did to Alabama. Like, he was just wow.
he was the best running back prospect in a long time. And then Ezekiel Elliott. Neither one was the prospect Saquon Barkley is. Even if they have his speed, they don't have his strength. And as well as Gurley catched it, did you see the catch that Saquon Barkley made yesterday? No other running back makes that catch.
Well, Le'Veon Bell makes that catch.
He also carries himself like a franchise quarterback. But just...
Well, Saquon actually carries himself like the person that you want to be the face of your franchise. That's why I state that if I'm the New York Giants, I'm looking to move Odell Beckham. Because Odell believes that he's the face of the franchise. He believes that he's the captain of the team because he happens to be the quote-unquote best player, or at least used to be. I believe that Saquon Barkley is now their best player, and he's the person that you want to be the face of your franchise, not an Odell Beckham.
Talented in a way no one else is, which is why he's second in total yards from scrimmage this year in the NFL, fourth in total TDs, 6.1 yards per touch, second among running backs. Now, he's still going to learn how to block better. That's true. Gurley is a more complete back at this point, but imagine putting Saquon Barkley behind the line and the Rams line or the Cowboys line. He is better than those guys, and you know it when you look at him, behind a bad offensive line. A bad offensive line and a bad quarterback. Give him Jared Goff in that line. Give him the Cowboys line. I'm just telling you, it's not an issue of degree, it's an issue of kind. Saquon's in a class by himself. Go ahead.
I would not quite agree that Saquon is in a class by himself, but we know that Max Kellerman is Mr. Hyperbole. He's the same person who says that LeBron James is light years ahead of everybody else. He likes to stress the absurd. Saquon, in my view, is the best running back in the NFL right now, but it's not by much. Because what Ezekiel Elliott brings, what Le'Veon Bell brings, what Todd Gurley brings, it's pretty singular. What Saquon does so well is that he seems to combine what all of those running backs bring.
I agree, Max. I mean, it's barely a debate, in my opinion. I mean, when you watch Saquon play football, and you watch...
Let the record show that Victor Cruz played with the New York Giants and won a Super Bowl with them, and Max Kellerman is a New York Giants super fan.
You watch him carry the ball. Half the time he gets the carries, he's getting hit in the backfield, 2-3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He's shaking those guys off, and he's creating something out of nothing, which is what he's been doing all year long, all season long, catching the ball out of the backfield. If they really wanted to, he can have 1,000 yards receiving as well this year.
He probably could.
In the last, the last quarter of this season. So when you see Saquon play, I think it's not up head and shoulders above everybody else, but you can see he has that extra gear. That.
Thank you, Victor Cruz, for saying that. Thank you for saying that it's not head and shoulders above everybody else. But I do think that it's relatively clear that he brings things to the table that no other running back brings to the table in regards to his explosiveness and what he can do out of the backfield and also in the receiving game.
That extra factor that Todd Gurley and those other guys don't have.
I will concede that he looks better and that from a talent perspective, there is no doubt about that. Because when I think Saquon Barkley, I think Barry Sanders. And
not quite.
And I think somebody buffed that up. Was a buffed up.
Is that body frame or ability along with both?
Both. I'm talking about the evasiveness, the body frame.
No running back in the history of the NFL was as evasive as Barry Sanders. Not even Gale Sayers, not Hugh McElhenney, none of them. Nobody had the moves of Barry Sanders. He had the best feet in the history of the NFL. Saquon has great feet, but he's not Barry Sanders.
Getting low center of gravity, able to sit up there and juke guys, embarrass them, make them looking all around. I get all of that. But you know what? When Emmitt Smith retired, he was the all-time leading rusher in NFL history.
Well, Emmitt Smith also ran behind the greatest offensive line in NFL history.
Certainly wasn't somebody that you looked at aesthetically and said, oh my goodness, he's better than Barry Sanders, because Emmitt Smith career 4.2 yards per carry, Barry Sanders 5 yards per carry.
Look, I've always felt, or at least I felt during the time that I was watching Emmitt Smith, that he was overrated. I didn't think that he was as good as Barry Sanders or as Thurman Thomas for that matter, because I thought that Thurman Thomas was just so dominant. For those of you who never saw Thurman Thomas play, and interestingly enough, the NFL Network is about to have one of those biographical specials about Thurman Thomas. Thurman Thomas was Marshall Faulk before Marshall Faulk in regards to his ability to run and catch the football out of the backfield. Unbelievable.
We saw how Barry Sanders had dudes with their backs turned for crying out loud. They didn't know where the hell he was. That's how bad he was. All right. Whereas Emmitt Smith, the running back, hit the hole and just did what he had to do.
Well, that's why Emmitt was a better playoff running back than Barry Sanders was.
What I'm saying to you is when you've got a Gurley and you've got an Ezekiel Elliott and you have them doing what they're doing, yes, you can look at me from the eyeball test and say, Saquon Barkley special. They can't do what he does. Except when you pull up the numbers. And when you pull up the numbers, they do exactly what he does in terms of running the football effectively. And so, again, what I would say to you is Saquon Barkley is that stud. He's spectacular.
Well, that goes back to Max Kellerman's point, that being that Saquon Barkley is doing phenomenal things with a lesser quarterback and a lesser offensive line. So you just can't look at the numbers. You also have to apply proper context.
But the flip side is that when you don't have to be to run the football effectively, which Gurley and Ezekiel Elliott showed you.
Todd Gurley didn't have a line. When Todd Gurley, they were stacking the box against Todd Gurley.
When Jeff Fisher was the head coach, a.k.a. the worst head coach of all time, a.k.a. the man who must have had naked photos of the NFL commissioner in an orgy with with kidnapped women. I mean, who the hell knows why Jeff Fisher was allowed to keep his job for as long as he was?
I was sitting here arguing people, he's actually better than Ezekiel Elliott. He just doesn't, these are other factors. Saquon Barkley doesn't have a line, and he's still getting it done. He's unlike anything we've ever seen.
Well, not quite. He reminds me a lot of LaDainian Tomlinson.
I won't say anything I ever seen. Barry Sanders.
No, but he's Barry Sanders with 20 pounds of muscle.
No, he does not have the moves of Barry Sanders. But once again, Max Kellerman is a fanboy who loves hyperbole.
And faster.
He's like a bigger, maybe slightly faster version of LT.
I guess what I'm saying to you is, when I look at an Ezekiel Elliott, I see a guy that's out last year. Cowboys don't know what to do with themselves. He's balling his rookie year. Cowboys go to 13-3. He's balling this year, 1,262 yards rushing, by the way. This year, what the Dallas Cowboys doing? They've won 5 straight. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to, again, talent-wise, blind. But I'm talking about in terms of effectiveness, running, hitting the gaps, not dancing around, not tap dancing. Ezekiel Elliott.
I just think from a running back perspective, he's done the most with less this year as a running back.
All right.
I'll give you that one, and that's fair.
All right. Victor, good to see you. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, guys.
All right.
They put Mark Sanchez in a tough spot yesterday, but that's another.
Mark Sanchez has put himself in a tough spot for his entire career because he's whack Jews. That's why. But anyway, we'll see how Mr. Saquon Barkley's career progresses. The NFL is in a very good spot with their running backs. Unfortunately, Kareem Hunt has fallen by the wayside, at least for this season. So peace.